So, Freddie Gibbs has finally released his new record, You Only Die Once. So, Freddie Gibbs is one of the most beloved and controversial acts in hip hop history. And despite like the strange things that he can put in his Twitter or Instagram that got him banned like 50,000 times to the point that he has to create new accounts and whatever, he has one of the most unique and beloved discographies in the genre itself. Records like Pinata, Bandana, Alfredo, just to name a few. Like, those records are already classics in many's eyes, and in my eyes too. Those albums are just unique and just masterfully created records and shows how much can be accomplished in a rapper and producer collaboration effort. Aside of the collaborative effort that Freddie has when it comes to produce to like just with other producers in general, he also has a pretty good input with his solo material. Of course, he made solo material before Pinata and made solo material between the events of Pinata and Fetty and Bandana, like the self-titled Freddie album, Shadow of a Doubt, You Only Die Twice. There's just a bunch of records that he did in his solo career. Now, I will say I haven't listened to all of his solo records. I know it's a shocker, and I'm a huge Freddie Gibbs fan, but I haven't listened to those records yet. I'm obviously hoping to listen to those records. I've just listened to like some of his solo albums. But anyway, getting back to the discussion here, I think a lot of people think that Freddie can only shine when there's a producer, I guess, helping him through the entire record. But honestly, it's not entirely the case. Souls Sold Separately was honestly one of his greatest efforts, if not his greatest solo effort to that point. I mean, it had so much collaboration, it had a pretty great feature list, and it saw Freddie Gibbs kind of tapping into the mainstream genre while also retaining what made him popular and what made him beloved by many fans. And what was very interesting with Soul Sold Separately was, I guess, the hints that Freddie was dropping as if he was going to retire and sort of just like not focus on music that much and maybe take a break and just a huge hiatus, which I'm not gonna lie, kind of had me worried because, this man created like a couple of classics and a handful of classics that I still listen to this day, and they're very important hip hop records. Just him leaving the scene in general, kind of like it's almost like a hole there. It's like something is missing. But thankfully, he returned and he released a surprise album, You Only Die Once, which is a sequel album to You Can Only Die Twice, I believe. I don't know if that's correct title. You Can Only Die Twice or You Only Die Twice. It's something like that. But I think it's his 2017 record that I've yet to hear him. So I'm not gonna compare anything because I haven't heard anything from that record. But I did hear some pretty good things about it, so I'll definitely check it out soon. It was very just like shocking to see just this sudden like just surprise album that he just announced out of thin air in the span of like a couple of days last week. He dropped a single for it, technically a single, On the Set, which is actually the final track for this album. And it's a song that basically, it's Freddie kind of like speaking about the legends that he used to look up to, that he used to aspire, and those legends turning out to be like monsters or terrible people that that have tainted their own reputation because of their own actions and consequences. Freddie uses Diddy out of all people in the opening line, kind of showcasing that he looked up to Diddy before the whole thing happened with Diddy, and just, I guess, kind of being disappointed with the events that happened. I think like the whole song in general was just mostly like Freddie kind of like being at the height of his career, being in Hollywood, kind of seeing everything unfold as it is, seeing the ups and downs of the success in Hollywood, and him having such an elevated career to the point that he is, I guess, more mainstream and feels that he wants to do more films, as he mentions, as the title suggests, like On the Set, and now he's like kind of shooting films on the set. He's mostly like involved in Hollywood projects than he is on focusing, or I guess hyperventilating, on creating music to be more sustainable economically speaking. Kind of feeling that he's already reaching the superstar status and evaluating what comes with that status itself. I think as a finale, and I know I'm getting way ahead of myself, I haven't even touched the intro and stuff, but it makes a lot of sense because of the themes that are discussed throughout this record. Getting into the themes of the record itself, Freddie Gibbs in this album really dives in conceptually, and it's something that I didn't really expect at all, and I didn't really capture it in my first or second listen until I gave it a couple more spins. and it really shocked me with just how laser focused Gibbs was, and I guess discussing some of these very deep and dark themes. You know, some of the themes are more of like he's constantly fighting with the devil on his shoulder, his intrusive thoughts, I guess his sometimes barbaric behavior, how it can have consequences in his life and stuff. As there are some skits, and even in the intro track, status, you know, you hear this kind of like comical satirical version of the devil, of this guy claiming that he's the devil, kind of like, I guess, dumbing him down to a person. And I guess like the funny and evil remarks that he kind of whispers to Freddy's ear, you know, kind of him say that he gave Freddy the bitches, he gave Freddy the money, the success, everything, all the bad things that turned to good, all the vices. You know, it's kind of like just telling Freddy to go more into his vices. You know, that he has a debt to the devil, that he's kind of sold himself to the devil a bit, like the actions that he committed. And I thought it was very interesting the way he kind of like satirizes it in a way. It kind of like just makes it a bit funny, but at the same time makes it pretty dark with what it's trying to say. And it's very interesting because, like, again, in the title track status, Freddie drops some bars, and he kind of mentions like his, I guess, tendency to be indecisive, as he kind of drops a bar, like a strange bar of like doesn't know which candidate to vote, like he doesn't endorse neither candidate because he doesn't know who to vote, among other things. And I thought it was very interesting with like the devil on his shoulder, kind of speaking to him, and him not, I guess, having a side. Like it might be a huge stretch, but I think it contributes to the themes because it contributes to, once again, his indecisiveness. His like he doesn't know how to react in certain occasions because he's like thinking of so many things at the same time. Aside of the conceptual stuff that Freddie kind of sprinkled across this record, Freddie being Freddie just has one of the tightest flows in hip hop history, and he really goes off on a lot of these tracks. The track Cosmo Freestyle feels like it has like 30 different layers attached to it, and it feels like there's like a melody or beat switch happening in almost every single 30 seconds, and Freddie just goes in and in and in with the flow. He drops a very strange R. Kelly bar, and it's him, like, it's not him defending R. Kelly, but it's more of like just him saying that he doesn't condone what R. Kelly did, but R. Kelly still has heat in his playlist, which, look, it's a very strange way to just say an R. Kelly bar, but whatever. I don't know why, but Freddie has like a tendency throughout this record of like just kind of like saying, you know, they're gonna cancel me because they're gonna misinterpret what I say, you know. And sometimes it can come off as strange, but to be fair, it is part of his character. He has been this way forever, but regardless, I think the track itself is fantastic. Freddie is locked in. He is razor sharp, and he is spitting bars left after right. And even like after a couple of listens during this entire record, I'm still catching new bars and new things from that song. Track Wolverine clocks in as 2 minutes and 47 seconds, yet it feels like a 4-minute track because of the amount of things that this man says. Like, again, like Freddie just has such a tendency of just like spitting a lot of bars during here, and it's just like insane. I think it was this track, or maybe confusing with some other track, where he said the very funny, "I'm gonna build the bomb and smoke my ops like Oppenheimer" line, and then like go to your mama house or something. It is like one of the craziest lines that I've heard a rapper ever spit. Like, smoking your ops with a bomb like Oppenheimer is hatred that I wish I never have in my life. But going back to the more serious material, I think tracks like Steel Doors, which kind of goes into the theme of him being screwed over by his own associates, being screwed over by, you know, the people that are with him and stuff, and getting a lot of negativity and hate. And I guess navigating through that negativity and hate was a very interesting way for Freddie to convey that message. Following track Walk It Off, kind of him, I guess, taking the advice from his mother, just like walking off the criticism and stuff, kind of progressing more through life. And it's very interesting because Freddie, when he, like, I guess, dives deep into these more darker themes and topics, he does it over some very like lush like instrumentals. I kind of feel it in the production side, as expected. It's a bit safer if you were to compare it to something of like Bandana or just any project that Freddie has done with Madlib, Alchemist, or any other producer of that sense. It obviously feels much safer in the side since it's Freddie kind of like experimenting, collaborating with other producers that he's wanting to produce with. And I had a feeling that I was going to be very mainstream because, you know, you have names like BNX attached to it, and I was like, what the hell is BNX doing a Freddie Gibbs album? but it really pays off. I mean, the production is nice and lush. Sometimes a bit more trap focused, sometimes a bit more hip hop focused with the more jazz undertones. But for the most part, it makes it for a very nice, chill listen, which is something that I would never expect. I mean, when the album turns up, it turns up. When the album just kind of wants to sit back and rock back, it really does it. The track Ruthless, despite it being a more meditative, I guess, stance for Freddie, it's a track that kind of takes me back to more of like a chill mid 2010s hip hop beat that might sound like a bunch of keywords just thrown in there, but it's like I think the loop kind of thrown in, the female like just like oh like loop thrown into the background, and the drums kind of being a bit more cheery. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like it's not like the typical hip hop track, if that makes sense. It's much more stripped back and much more like just again chill. It's something just ready that can use to meditate. Despite me not loving the song, I really think that Freddie did a very interesting thing with the track itself. I know I said earlier that some tracks, despite their length, felt like much longer than what it is in a good way, but there are some tracks like Origami, in a sense, that it's like it feels like it could have used much more polishing or something more. Despite the 3 minutes and 27 seconds length, which is more than enough, there doesn't feel like that song. It feels like that song could have been much more than what it was. Don't get me wrong, I personally like the song, and I think the production by BNX is a great compliment, and they work, and Freddie and BNX work hand to hand. And it's again Freddie diving more into the conceptual parts of it. But I just feel like that song could have been like I feel like that song ends too abruptly or ends too prematurely before it develops into something even better. Because Freddie goes on this very rapid, what usual Freddie flow that he's locked in, but it's like it doesn't do anything more, if anything. It could have been much more, is what I'm trying to get at. I gotta give Freddie props for going solo on this record, except for, the producers that he had involved in this project. Usually he's a very collaborative rapper. He collabs with a bunch of other people in his field. Even in this last solo record, we had like big features like Rick Ross, Moneybagg Yo, Pusha T, Anderson .Paak, Raekwon. Like, we had big names attached to that record, and kind of him, I guess, taking a step back, not being that collaborative, and kind of putting himself in his own lane is very interesting. I guess it helps him more to focus, to come up with a more cohesive concept and structure. But it comes at a cost that it's like, again, with like the structure of some songs that feel a bit too short and could have been a bit more. I feel that definitely some of these songs might have been better with like maybe a single feature or some extra like thing thrown in there to really spice up I guess the whole feeling of the track. The track 30 Girlfriends, it reminds me of this like this future flow of like the song Rich Sex on DS2. It just has a sort of like chill kind of melancholy-ish flow. Obviously Gibbs has done songs that are very like sing-alike in that nature, and despite that being, I guess, not my favorite thing that he has to offer, it just really reminded me of like almost like a Future song, the way that he's singing on the song and trying to be a bit more mellow and a bit more chill. Track It's Your Anniversary is an explosive 2 minute and 20-second track that has this insane beat. Feels very West Coasty with the synthesizers thrown in the background and the very rapid sample that feels like it was like chipmunked in a way. Again, like just the drums, everything feels very West Coast like in a very fast tempo. And Freddie, this guy's a master of rapping at any sort of tempo, especially the quicker tempos, and he really goes off on his track. I think he talks about this beef with Benny the Butcher. I believe it's this song. Kind of like name drops it the way that he kind of had like a connection with him, and then it just kind of fell off, which is very unfortunate, among other things. But he's also just like talking about his status and success throughout the song. Like, it's your anniversary. It's almost like his anniversary in a sense. And I found it to be very interesting. The track Rabbit Island has a very like just again chill melody and vibe attached to it. Most of these songs again just has very chill samples playing into the background, but it feels like just like Freddie is like dissing at the same time, like just talking and shit and dunking on people on such a mellow track that it's kind of funny to listen to, but it's also hard at the same time, and it's something that Freddie Gibbs can only do himself. The track Brick Fees, in its 4 minute length, I wasn't a huge fan of the chorus and hook segment, but as this song progressed and evolved past the 2 minute mark, it is like an entirely different song, and it kind of just takes the extra mile. And it is something that Gibbs should have done a bit more on this record, despite the record being like just good as it is, and I think great even for a solo record. As I said before, it has its issues, it has its kind of mishaps, and I feel that if Freddie kind of like extended some of these songs, maybe put in at least one feature. I found the interlude "Nobody Like You" to be very funny. Just like the bunch of like this girls that Freddie's messed with, just like calling him up, and he's like deleting the voicemail until at the end it's like the devil says like you have the devil, and like everything is like these consequences are catching up with him. I found it to be very interesting and cool. And I love the beat, like the whole beat that plays on in the background. It's amazing. I wish that Freddie actually rapped on it, but whatever. I think the interlude itself kind of reminded me of like Watts and Pinata, that interlude track, the penultimate track. It's like just somebody like just calling him, talking shit on him for 3 minutes, while this beautiful beat that plays in the background kind of shows you like just the contrast between the two. Despite some of the complaints that I have with the record, like maybe some songs should have been a bit longer, maybe a song should have had a feature, something to spice it up, maybe a beat switch like they did previously throughout this record. I still think this record is great within itself. There's a lot to offer, and it has a lot of replay value within itself. Like it isn't like I felt the entire record just went by like in like super speed. Like it just like I know it's 37 minutes and it's not a lot, and it's not even a lot, but it's like it felt less than 37 minutes. Like the way that everything felt like just like it was zooming by, and I think Freddie in that time period really entertains you and really hooks you. And even on some the beats, which again I did praise the beats and I think they're good, some of them can be slightly stale, and I think Freddie Gibbs' pen and his flow is so like strong at this point that it's like I don't really mind it at all. I think that his pen like really carries around throughout this record, and it is a thing that I'm kind of like laser focused on, if anything. I genuinely hope that Montana comes out with Madlib, but we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah. So yeah, what am I feeling for this record? I'm feeling a light 8 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think of this record. Do you guys love it? You guys hate it? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoy this video, drop a like. Subscribe to notification bell on so you don't miss an upload from me. And yeah, peace out, everybody.